When you think of marketing, how many of you think I need to be absolutely as pinpoint specific as possible? No, you don't want to do that, do you? And why don't you want to do that? You all know why. What? Because I don't want anyone to reject me. Right? Who wants to be rejected? Not therapists, that's for sure. So, you know, what I want to do is I want to be appealing. This is what I was talking about before, right? There are like 2.5 million people in the local Bay Area, and I want to treat every single one of them. I don't think that's a productive way to think about marketing. I invite you to let that go. Because what we're talking about is the specificity paradox. Trademark, copyright. No, this is what I call the specificity paradox. The idea is there's this illusion that if I'm more specific, more people are going to reject me. And what I'm doing is I'm telling clients not to come to me. I'm not telling clients to come to me. Okay? That is an illusion. Okay? Because at the same time, you're not putting out anything for people to reject by being more general. You are not creating any reason for them to select. And purchasing decisions are not made on the basis of not rejecting. Purchasing decisions are made by selecting, right? So this is like a sales marketing thing. And it's a very important concept for you to keep in mind as you're creating your marketing program, okay? It's that you need to have a reason for someone to select you. If you're trying not to be rejected, you are actually trying not to be accepted. You're not giving people a reason to accept you. Some people call it a hook. You need a hook. You need something that you're going to put out there that people are going to go and go, bam, that's for me. So when I put this thing out, I didn't say, I'm going to give some help for interns on a general topic and maybe it'll be of interest to you. You know, not nearly as many of you would have signed up for that. But when I said this is private practice for interns, not just general private practice, this is specifically private practice for interns. That's a very specific topic, and each one of you recognized that and saw there was enough potential value that it was worth coming here to see if you'll realize that value, to see if I'm really going to be able to give you something. So, and I'm trying to fulfill that. That's what I want to do. But there's no guarantee, but there was enough of a prospect that it made you want to jump in. So thank you for validating my marketing plan, because that's what happened. You need to do the same thing. You need to give people a reason to select you. Don't think there's millions of people out there and I don't want to miss any of them. What you've got to think is, out of millions of people, almost any subgroup you can name is going to have a couple of hundred people in it. Some of them will have a lot more, but there isn't going to be any subgroup you could name that is not going to have a substantial population in the Bay Area. But what you need to do is let them know you're the person for that. So in our initial introduction, some people talked about ADHD, some people talked about spectrum stuff. There are some things that people are specific about. I heard one person talk about working with adolescents from couples that are dual income people and things like that. So that's more specific. Okay, the more specific you get, it's not that the fewer people who really don't want to consume your services, you don't want to spend time answering their phone calls, responding to their emails, going through a whole elaborate exchange and then having them not come to be your client. That's time you could have been marketing to people who might actually be your clients, right? It's a really tricky thing for people like us, and I mean like people who are therapists, to accept, is that rejection has a real positive function, right? When you talk to evolutionary biologists, they are very clear on the value of rejection. Right, is that there are times where you don't want to bother. We don't try to cross-pollinate species and things like that because it's kind of a waste of time, and that's time we could have spent pollinating our own species. So there we go, much more productive. So, but for therapists, the idea of rejection is not a comfortable one. Okay, so we don't want to be rejected. But what you're doing is you're not rejecting people who wouldn't have been your client anyway. That's not what's happening. What's happening is you are trying to give this the most specific attraction you possibly can, the most specific detail, so that when someone sees what you're doing, they go, oh, that's exactly what I need. And when they see that, then they're inclined to contact you. And that's the beginning of a possible client. Does this make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, one question. That makes a lot of sense, and I could see like how I would do that with the expertise I have with children and teens and more specifics with that. But then there's other areas that I'd like to learn about when I get into a private practice internship. So I'm kind of wondering, how do you also then attract clients? Like, I'd be interested in working with adults who have anxiety issues, because I've worked a lot with kids who have that. But I shouldn't put that on the marketing because I haven't gotten that experience yet. You know what I mean? Like,
so how are you going to get that experience?
That's it. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, don't be too broad, but I do want to learn these other things.
Okay, so what you need is, you need the two-book theory, Howard's two-book theory.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
This is Howard's two-book theory. I've always held this. I just think this is an interesting perspective to hold. My idea is that if you pick a topic, you read 2 books on that topic, you will know more than 95% of the world on that topic. Yeah. 2 books. You are 2 books away from being a virtual expert on almost any topic. Now, that is not the same as being a qualified expert to handle people with deep psychosis and stuff like that. We're not looking for that, though, right? I don't think you're talking about working with like really extreme client populations, right? So you got to learn it somehow. So read a couple books, attend a training, and then start advertising for that population. Say, this is a client population of great interest to me. I'm focused on. You don't say I'm an expert in. Careful how you word it. But say I'm focused on. You know, I'm working in the area of.
That makes sense, yeah.
And that's okay, and that's a great way to move into that direction.
Right.
And you have a supervisor, right? And even when you're licensed, you have professional consultations. You have other people you can talk to. Okay. It's hard for any of us to be an expert on every aspect of doing therapy, right? It's a very, very broad thing. The field of human pathology is enormous. I mean, it's so enormous they made a word for it, right? Yeah. So, you know, but we can learn, we can grow. And depending on what your theory is, there are some things that, some perspectives, some therapeutic perspectives that you take that aren't really about the specific problem so much as moving the client forward into a direction that's going to be more positive for them, or having ways of experientially exploring what their issues are that are sort of independent of the way they're manifesting, which is what the problem is.
Right.
Right? So I think, yes?